Well, we need to talk about myocarditis. Once again, the reason we need to talk about it here on the show is because the big pharma funded mainstream news networks in the United States will not cover this story. Now, when we learned that Moderna, Pfizer, and others spend millions of dollars in advertisements with the major media networks in the United States, it's no wonder that we see little or no coverage of troubling stories as it relates to vaccines, specifically the myocarditis story. Instead, we have to go to Israel, where the Israeli Times and Israeli newspapers are covering a major medical story from the United States that was just published, by the way, in the Journal of the American Medical Association in the United States. Now, I should point out, among the authors in the study are CDC members. Okay, let me repeat that. Authors involved in this study are from the Centers for Disease Control. Okay, among other major health institutions like Emory University, Vanderbilt University, highly prestigious universities, by the way. Okay, and the CDC. But again, just reminding you of that. Just put that in your site. This isn't like some fringe report. Okay, this is a very credible report. Now, here is the headline this morning from this Israeli paper on what we're seeing. New study: 133x risk of myocarditis after COVID vaccination. Comparisons with myocarditis rates following infection now irrelevant, as vaccination no longer prevents infection. That's the Israeli newspaper covering the story. So the report shows that the risk of myocarditis or inflammation of the heart is 133 times greater than after getting the mRNA COVID vaccine. The risk is there across multiple age and sex strata, according to the study, but it's greater in adolescent boys. And shouldn't we know about this? My question is to you, when you watch television and you see advertisements for drugs, at the end of those commercials, don't they always say, may cause, urinary tract infection, may cause this, may cause that, may cause death, may cause this. Anyone can just waltz into a pharmacy and get a COVID vaccine, and they're not given any warning about it? They're not issued any warnings about this? Why?
Well, and here's something that's crazy. The guy that Joe Rogan had on that caused all this controversy about misinformation was a heart specialist, and one of the is actually the most published doctor in the heart field, Dr. Peter McCullough. And he has been saying this all along. And he was saying that 13% of kids will get it. 80% of those kids end up in the hospital. There's been a study in Alberta a while ago from a very credible a doctor in there that was saying it's for Pfizer, it's 1 in 3,000 kids. And usually male, and 1 in 7 with Pfizer, and 1 in 7,000 with Moderna. So they have known this for a long time. It's just now coming out. And these people were painted as conspiracy theorists and anti-vax and all this other stuff for trying to get us this exact information that now is going to become mainstream.
Well, AA in our chat says the vaccination is not supposed to prevent COVID. It's supposed to help fight it when you get it. Okay, now.
That's not what we were told.
That's not what we were told. Remember? You want to go back and just look at the countless members of the administration and were out there telling us, and members of the inner circle were telling us, absolutely get this because it's going to prevent the spread, right?
Well, AA is the one I was having the conversation with yesterday about the convoy. So they seem to be an establishment narrative believer. So,
hey, but I love AA. I want AA. I'm glad you're in our chat watching the show today, because that means you're opening up your mind here. All I'm doing is providing facts for you. Okay.
Yeah, because there's always another narrative like that. You can't just dump.
And I don't have an agenda, by the way. I run a multi-million-dollar business. I don't have to do this show at all. Okay. I don't have to do this. I don't make any money from Big Pharma. I don't make any money from Moderna. I don't at all. So I love the news, and I love being able to disseminate things because I know how the belly of the beast works. I worked in the mainstream media. I was a journalist. Okay. I understand how this operation in the mainstream media works. So the fact that you're here watching this show, AA, is awesome. And I hope that you'll continue to be a great member of our audience because, maybe you won't agree with everything you hear. That's fine. But I encourage you to go and do your own due diligence on it. Go read about it yourself.
Well, how many
Go
people
learn
have we
about it.
seen over the years in this chat of saying, I stopped watching the mainstream media, because you start to see the other side of things. And then once you start to look into it, you see more.
Right. So when you watch, exactly. So I love that you're watching this show, because if you start watching your 6 o'clock news tonight, you're not going to see coverage of this. You're not going to see coverage of any. All you're going to see is the headline tonight on your 6 o'clock news will likely be Russia. NATO says Russia not de-escalating. Get ready for war. Like, that's going to be the headline, right? It's going to be a total lie to you. Mostly, that's usually how it is. So this condition, this report out of Israel, that's based on the JAMA article, which is the Journal of the American Medical Association, that the condition is serious enough for hospitalization. 87% of those that were hospitalized were discharged with the resolution of symptoms by the time they were discharged, which is good news, right? 87%. Okay, they had myocarditis, they were treated, and then they were able to successfully be treated and go home. Good news there, right? Facts are facts. We should also point out that this paper, this journal article, this Journal of the American Medical Association study, does not claim that the vaccine causes myocarditis. It does not go that far. But it does show a damn high correlation. And then it's sort of incumbent upon you to decide, okay, they just got a vaccination. Suddenly they got myocarditis. Now, the article's not saying that there is a connection, but what else happened in that interim period?
Well, and like Peter McCullough is saying, like, it depends on, like, yes, some of them are being, discharged or whatever, but he said that is something that will permanently affect their heart in many cases.
Or worse,
yeah.
Right? So Peter McCullough points out in a tweet this morning, 2 fatal cases of myocarditis in teenage boys a few days after a second dose, found dead at their home with without a chance of resuscitation. Clear-cut findings on the autopsy. And here he actually prints the autopsy report. He said, I testified in the U.S. Senate on January 24th that 1 case of this is too many. Parents and kids should know more about that deaths will happen. And that's all I'm saying here on this show is knowledge is power. And if we can sit there every night and watch commercial after commercial after commercial from all of these big pharma companies, side effects may include, shrunken head, may include death, may include stroke. I mean, the list of crap that they talk about is frightening. It may cause intestinal bleeding, all of that stuff is listed there on those commercials. Why can we not hear about it with this? We should know this.
I asked Jennifer. Yeah, exactly. And that is the stuff that these doctors on Joe Rogan were saying that they're getting attacked for. And this is the whole reason we're having this conversation. I asked Jennifer when she got back from getting hers, I was like, so did they warn you of like the potential of any side effects like the myocarditis or how it's affecting women's reproductive systems and stuff like that? Like, was there any mention of that stuff?
No. And by the way, when we covered that story here last year on this show, when I covered that story, I got demonetized. YouTube blocked me. Okay. When I covered the story that was coming out, and mainstream media was not covering the story about women's reproductive issues and as it relates to menstrual cycles being affected. Do you know how many emails I got from viewers that said, "Thank you for covering the story. My wife has been suffering from this, and we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what was going on." And we now have information. We can go to our doctor because now they're able to find other Facebook groups where other women had the same experience as a result of it.
My masseuse had it.
Not allowed to talk about it. Who had it?
My masseuse. Like, she started talking about it. Like, she said she had gotten the second one, and she started talking. And I asked her, I said, anything strange? And she's like, well, yeah. She goes, but that's not part of that, is? I was like, well, that is potential. I was like, we did a story on that, and she had no idea. She made that connection while I was there.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of women who wrote me on Twitter, who wrote emails to me saying, I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was going crazy. But my menstrual cycle has been totally affected by this.
Well, you know what's really funny, too, is like last week when you guys were gone and I did the members only stream, there was a huge percentage of people. And I actually made note of it. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe how many of you are saying they had adverse reactions from the jab. And I was like, how many people have? And I asked it, and there were so many people saying, I did. And I was just like blown away, because if you think about like the percentage of people that's potentially happening to, but you can't talk about it. There's a clause in all of the paperwork for the pharmaceutical companies that they're not responsible for any side effects whatsoever. So you cannot sue them. You're not their responsibility. So you have to try to fight to get any kind of help with it whatsoever. And insurance companies aren't, they're not going to put it and say that it was the vaccine that did it. They've been telling people, no, you've just got anxiety. No, you're just having heart palpitations. That's something else that came on from some other reason.
Right.
So, this has been going on for, a long time.
Yeah, you're just crazy.
Yeah.
You got to believe the
Crazy
mainstream media.
conspiracy theorists.
You got to listen to Matt Damon. That's what you got to believe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, also of note, Moderna COVID vaccine recipients have a higher risk, according to the reports. I can't believe they actually published this. Moderna COVID vaccine recipients have a higher risk of heart inflammation than Pfizer. So that's not good news for Pfizer. So what do we do with this information, right? Well, the study's authors say that adolescents, young adults, should have their progress monitored for heart-related incidents after they get vaccinated. Should be watched, right? Shouldn't just be sent home willy-nilly. Here, anyone can come in and grab these things. Just come in like candy. And get these things. Also, given that the vaccine does not prevent COVID, but has been shown to lessen its severity, we know that to be the truth. Each person then should go and talk with their own doctor about this and say, hey, I've read the stories and reports about myocarditis. And by the way, if your doctor hasn't read it or has been kept from reading it, I'll have a link to the Journal of American Medical Association study today. We covered it in the newsletter today, but it's right there from the JAMA Medical, and it's right from the CDC. So this is not misinformation or disinformation or any of that crap. This comes right from the CDC and these esteemed universities. And what it says is that they can't draw a connect. They didn't come right out and say it, that the vaccine is causing this, but you do the homework. I mean, do you want to take that chance? I guess. And if you do want to take that chance, great. Maybe you've got a comorbidity, or maybe you are, concerned about your health and you're a teenager or whatever, or whatever it happens to be. Make sure you're talking with a doctor about this. And certainly if you have like some sort of a heart condition before, I mean, look at like what Peter McCullough is talking about here with this tweet, right? And he links to the autopsy results. The results of the autopsies. 2 teenage boys who are found dead in their homes because of it.
And unfortunately, like, this country does not recognize natural immunity. So with all of these passports and everything that they were requiring, they weren't letting people, they actually made it so doctors could not write notes for people to give you some kind of, so if you wanted to go out in New York City or somewhere where they had these passes, doctors couldn't say, hey, you can't get it because of this. No, everybody had to get it, period, regardless of your medical history, regardless of any comorbidities that you had. They were saying, no, it's safe for everybody. Everybody needs to just shut up and get it. Kids need to shut up and get it. Doesn't matter age, doesn't matter any of that stuff. All that went out the window. And all these doctors are saying, no, this is not safe. You cannot do this.
Right. Yeah, and we talked about it yesterday here on the show, how you had certain doctors who they're being chastised. Like, they don't want to write those, what is it called? A medical, you can get one for a religious exemption or a medical exemption, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to do that because they're afraid that they'll basically lose their job. They'll be ostracized as a doctor. They're being told by, not to do that. Like, if someone says, hey, I've had an inflamed heart problem when I was younger. Is it okay for me to get maybe I have a medical exemption. I shouldn't get this vaccine. The doctors are like, I'm just not going to write that thing because I can't do it. I'm just going to be chastised for it. I'm going to lose my job because of it.
Well, and that's like some of these people asking doctors to actually say that I should get the vaccine. Like, write me a prescription or tell me that I need to get the vaccine. No, we can't do that. You just go to this place and get it.
Yeah, just go down here like a candy shop and just get it with no, people can just, that's what I can't wrap my head around, is that we can just, in the United States, it's such a for-profit system, right? That we'd rather put profits over people's health. That's the American medical establishment, right? Profits over people's health. That's it. And
Brandy Kenny.
What's that?
I was going to say, the Brandy Kenny in the chat just sent a $10 super chat. 2 people I work with that have young siblings that recently ended up in the hospital with myocarditis. One person dropped in the parking lot just minutes after, and they both ended up in comas.
Wow. Wow. Well, but we can't talk about it, Brandy. Right? Can't talk about it. You're then we're going to say you're an anti-vaxxer.
Had to totally be unrelated. Had to be unrelated.
Totally unrelated, right? I mean, that's the problem with this study, and I appreciate it. It's facts. Facts are facts, right? And as Dr. John Campbell went through the study, he said, look, they don't come right out and say it. They're not saying that there's direct connection between getting it and it causing myocarditis. But if you're Sherlock Holmes, right? 1 minute you go in and get the vaccine, and the next minute you drop and fall into a coma in the parking lot after getting the vaccine. Put two and two together. Or like the comedian, the woman the other day, the famous, the comedian now, she was on stage and doing a stand-up routine, and she had just gotten her booster shot, and she collapsed on stage. And she says, I'm not getting a fourth shot now. I was planning on getting it. I'm not going. Well, four, can you imagine? First of all, 4 shots? Holy smokes. You want that in your body?
Well, and the thing is, that shot has a synthetic spike in it, and that spike can stay in your body for up to 15 months. Well, every time you get that, you're extending that and adding more to it. It like completely just like bombards your body with spike, with that synthetic spike. And your heart or your body is not made to fight synthetic things.
No, and I got an alert on my watch or on my my text from hey, my COVID passport or whatever it is, my COVID thing, after 270 days, like it expires. So my like digital COVID passport, and I don't know what I'm not getting another one. So I don't know what. I felt like texting it back, but it was like a generic text number that's sent to me. I felt like texting it back and think, okay, that one's expired. Send me a new one. I'm not going to getting it. I'm sorry. But if I can't go into a friggin' restaurant, like, that's too bad. I'll eat at home then. If I can't, it's ridiculous. Disney World announcing today that it's opening up so that you can go there without wearing a mask if you're vaccinated, which again is one of those stupid protocols, like the same thing that I made fun of California for. You can go in and indoors in a mall and indoors without a mask in California only if you're vaccinated. What's the science behind that? It makes no sense. Makes no sense. What is the science behind that? We know that it doesn't matter even if you are vaccinated that you still can spread this thing. So what the hell is the difference?
Every YouTube video, every Facebook video, everything that's out there, every tweet you make that talks about anything, they point to 2 resources that you're supposed to. It was the WHO. They kind of removed that. Then it was the CDC. And when the CDC changes their guidelines on masks and say, yeah, we realize now the cloth masks don't work, but they're still saying that you have to wear them. And these Facebook and Google and all them are still pointing you to that information. And if you talk about it, you can get banned from your YouTube channel. Like you can be completely suspended off of YouTube, even though the science now from the source that they cite saying that we need to go to says different.
Right. Well, and here's a television presenter who is pushing for full vaccinations, who just got vaccinated, pushing for full vaccinations. Then she's on the air and just collapses right after talking about it. Another happy vaccinated. I just got vaccinated.
Jesus
everyone
must
should
love
go
her
out
the
there.
most too.
Everyone should go out and get vaccinated. Everyone should go out and get it. Right? You should all go out and get it. I just want to say, like, everyone should go and get it. Everyone should go get mandatory vaccinations. It should be vital that we get them. We should absolutely do this. See, I just got my 3rd dose. I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine. Totally fine. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see. Like,
and with all this is exactly why when knowing all this information, that they have to know this at the White House. They have to know this data. There's no way that they don't. And so that's why I was like, there's no way that Biden was actually given a booster live on TV. Like, I just don't think that they would have actually given him that live when they have all this data. I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, would that make sense if they have this data that they would do that to 80? How old is Biden?
I don't know, 79 or 80. I think you just turned 80.
That they would do that live on TV in front of press. No.
Here's another journalist, a Brazilian journalist, who was just talking about, just had my 3rd vaccine, just got my 3rd vaccine, and then collapses on the air. The camera operator.
Well, he's really struggling to keep that camera up.
It's the thing. I'm saying, like, anecdotal for sure, right? Couple of cases. But this is, again, why we need information. So what if someone has a pre-existing condition? Someone is concerned about a heart condition. So there's no disclaimers. There's nothing about it. You're not allowed to ask about it. If you do, you get shut down on mainstream media. You're not allowed to talk about it. And now we see these... Yeah.
Google all the athletes. Like, Google athletes that have been collapsing. Soccer players, football players. Just completely collapsing when otherwise they were healthy before all of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've certainly seen like some of the cycling athletes and others who have done that and talked about having their heart nonstop racing. They couldn't stop their heart from racing and racing and racing and racing because of myocarditis. And these are the type of people that monitor their blood oxygen level like every day. They know their resting heart rate. They study this because they're professionals, right? And suddenly, like their heart beating at 145 beats a minute. They're like, I'm just sitting here, not doing anything. Why is my heart racing?
But
the only difference is because I just got a booster shot.
Yeah, but thank goodness that the pharmaceutical companies, these corporations, had the foresight to, get that clause in there, making that so that they're not responsible for any adverse reactions. Like it's so good that they mitigated that risk, so that all of you that would have any kind of adverse effects, you're on your own. So that was good thinking, pharmaceutical corporations. I'm glad you did that.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.